It was close of business day on a Friday. Casey, a 26-year-old girl living in the metropolis of Lagos, Nigeria, walked into a bookshop and purchased a journal. Her 27th birthday is coming up next month, and she feels that this Friday evening is a good time to sit back and reflect on her life, rather than going for that date with Chike. A date she believed would head nowhere. She is currently questioning her choice of men, at least a little bit more, before she can conclude that she has been unlucky with men. Casey has got home after her taxi driver has successfully made it to her compound amidst the crazy traffic situation in Lagos. She hurried into her flat, undressed immediately, leaving her clothes and bag on the floor of her living room. She enjoys her freedom of living alone in her beautifully decorated apartment. The freedom of walking about naked was something she enjoyed, at least until there is a reason not to anymore. The water from her shower news ran freely on her skin while she had her bath, washing the stress of the week out of her body. As she showered, her mind flashed back to what happened at the office, the casual break-off text she has dropped on Jide's WhatsApp number, Jide's dead reply of okay, and how she buried whatever the emotional turmoil she had after, in her work, just so she does not get to indulge it. Now that she is at home alone, it is the best time to process it and probably cry. However, the tears have refused to come. I have been through the worst, it is only best I keep picking myself regardless. She said this to herself while she reached for her towel. Casey dried her skin, hung back the towel, did a little bit of dancing in her bathroom mirror, before she walked back to her room to get dressed. Casey reached for her phone, dialed Chike's number and put her phone on speaker while her line tried to connect to Chike's line. After a few seconds, the other end of the phone came alive with Chike's voice. "Babe, what's up? I am sure you are getting dressed already," Chike asked in anticipation and continued, "I will be coming to pick you up in an hour, you know Lagos." "Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't think I will make it today," Casey cuts in, and proceeds to tell him a well-thought-out lie to back up her reason for cancelling on him at the last minute. Chike was not having it, but Casey was not ready to reconsider. "I am sorry I cancelled last minute, but I promise to make it up to you next week," Casey said, while wearing an expression that stated otherwise, but she needed to get rid of Chike in whichever way possible. Casey hung up after what seemed like she had managed to convince Chike to cancel. She put on her moisturizer, covered her hair with her bonnet, slipped into her pajamas and headed to her refrigerator for her favorite apple juice. She poured some into her mouth from the juice can, before reaching for a glass to pour some more to herself while whispering home training under her breath. She took her juice and headed back to her bedroom, ignoring the clothes she left on the floor of her sitting room. "Tomorrow is Saturday, these ones can stay there for tonight," she said while reaching from her handbag, the only item she deemed worth picking up from the floor. As for the clothes, they will listen to her and abide by her rules. She has always been a lady who instructs. So, the clothes can as well follow her instructions for the evening. They have no choice. Back in her bedroom, Casey placed her cup by her bedside table, rolled the duvet over and sat comfortably on her bed. She reached for her journal, the item she bought from the bookshop just opposite her workplace, the journal that would birth a new era, an era she hopes to ease into completely. Casey would later write about her journey with different men she has encountered, a collection of what could have been and what should have never existed. A vulnerability she picked over Chike. An accountability that is long overdue. Casey met Zimuzo on a dating app she recently joined since she left Enugu for Lagos, a city she is barely starting to settle into. Zimuzo is a medical doctor who arrived Lagos 2 years before Casey. He was the conventional good-looking man, and he had an outstanding personality. Casey had a good time chatting and getting to know him on the app. He was very engaging, always ready to help Casey get through any difficulty she encountered while trying to settle in the city despite his busy schedule. The first time they met in person was in a church. Zimuzo invited Casey to the church he attended. He was waiting out while the taxi pulled in. Casey stepped off the taxi and walked toward him, hoping to get a hug. She was surprised when Zimuzo pulled her in and gave her a kiss on the cheek. They walked back into the church, hand in hand, and after the service, he introduced her as his friend to the pastor and other friends of his. They also had a long stroll and ended up having a pizza and great conversations while at it. It seemed that their first date was surreal. Few days later, Casey was on her Facebook timeline when she stumbled on a post she found intriguing. To soak herself into it, she moved to the comment section to read comments. That was when a particular comment caught her attention. A lady had said some endearing words and had tagged Zimuzo to it. Casey was curious. She clicked on the profile of the lady for more cues, but she could not find anything beyond a few likes from Zimuzo on some of her pictures. Casey's gut was kicking. She knew that there is more to that, even though the profile couldn't affirm that. The weekend came fast, and Casey was to meet Zimuzo. They were at a cafe having a drink and gisting about the most random things. Casey knew she would ask Zimuzo about the lady, but she needed to ask it in a way that is not suggestive of anything, but she failed woefully. "I didn't know you had a girlfriend," Casey blunted out. "You didn't ask," Zimuzo, who handled it carefully without a trace of any facial expression that suggested being taken unawares, replied. Casey continued, "I do not need to ask, we met on a dating app. I would think everyone who is on there is single. I guess my assumption was wrong." Zimuzo let out a smile and asked how she found out. Casey told him, and added, "She is beautiful." Zimuzo went on to explain how he was introduced to the lady by one of his female colleagues, and how he is yet to meet her in person. According to him, she lived in another city and he is not very sure if he is ready to go all in. Casey said nothing and continued gulping her drink. The date ended, and Zimuzo dropped her off in her apartment. Casey decides to remain friends with him. After all, he is a good fella who is at her beck and call when he needs him to. This decision would later appear to be a bad one because they went from being friends to getting into an undefined situation. She kept seeing Zimuzo and their connections deepen as each day rolls by. Casey enjoyed spending time with Zimuzo. She would literally share everything she is up to with him, and to be fair, Zimuzo reciprocated. Life continued, until when Zimuzo decided it was time to go to Enugu since he has not been back for 2 years now. He further pleaded with Casey to go with him to the mall, as he would need to buy some gifts for the family. Casey did not hesitate. She also needed to get a few things for herself. All the while, Zimuzo has been hinting on getting 2 new phones for himself. What she didn't know was that the second phone would be for the Facebook lady. It took the unintentional disrespect of Zimuzo's friend to jerk Casey back to reality. A reality that had Zimuzo getting married to the lady she found about on Facebook. A reality that had her hate Zimuzo for so long until she couldn't anymore. In this reality, she counted her loss, picked up the lessons, and most importantly listened to her gut more than her heart. Sitting on the same table at the restaurant in the mall was Zimuzo's friend. Her name was Olumo, the sister to the friend that linked Zimuzo to the Facebook lady. Casey and Zimuzo ran into Olumo at the mall, and Zimuzo introduced Casey as a friend. Olumo was happy to meet Casey. The three decided to sit and gist for some time since it has been a while Olumo physically met Zimuzo. The conversation would gradually take a new shape when Olumo started asking Zimuzo about how it is going with his girlfriend. Oluma, who was also a mutual friend to both Zimuzo and the lady, did not waste time in putting in good words for the lady. She emphasized on the good character of the lady, her skill set, and most importantly, her beauty and humility. It will be difficult to tell if what happened next was intentional or quite a slip of tongue, as Olumo turned to Casey as if to drive home the point she was making about Zimuzo and his girl. "Casey, do you know that Zimuzo bought a new phone for his girl?" Olumo said excitedly in her voice and continued, "She deserves it and more. I am even more happy that Zimuzo is finally going home to meet her. It is long overdue." Casey smiled and added, "Oh, that is good. She really do deserve it from what I have heard so far." Zimuzo could tell that he has made a mess that will never be sorted, but the conversation with Olumo continued. Casey's heart was heavy, but she did a good job sitting through it all. The drive back to Casey's house was very weird. Zimuzo knew that he owed Casey an explanation and most importantly an apology, but he was very sure that this was not the right time to talk. Casey got home and buried her face in her pillow. She needs to cry and let go. She needed to accept what had happened, but in all of this, she knew that she would never forgive Zimuzo for that stark betrayal and utmost disrespect. She sent Zimuzo a text barring him from contacting or visiting her anymore. All the efforts Zimuzo made to get across to her proved abortive as she had blocked him on all platforms. Casey closed her journal, tucked it under her pillow, gulped down her glass of juice while promising herself to continue tomorrow.